everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Transformers Legacy Core Class G2 Megatron. Before we take a look at them, let's take a look at the packaging. So of course with the packaging here, at the very top we have Megatron in his really cool looking tank mode. We have the Legacy logo. We have Transformers on the side. On the side of the box here we have a nice artwork of G2 Megatron firing his really cool cannon. On the back he transforms into 12 steps. Of course here is a tank and the robot mode looking very cool. We have the Legacy Decepticon artwork. We have Megatron, Dragstrip, Iguana, Skywarp, and Kickback, and that is pretty much it for the packaging, so let's now get into this review. Here we have Legacy Core Class G2 Megatron in his tank mode. Let's take a look at the details. We're going to start at the side here, some nice black for the treads there, that looks pretty good. Also some nice nuts and bolts and like little packages and boxes on the side, that looks pretty cool. Of course some nice green and purple over the figure. I really do like this nice military kind of camouflage deco. Nice G2 Decepticon symbol there, looking very cool and with orange and red. Moving to the front, of course, some more packages and panels and stuff with lots of green and purple, looking very cool. Of course, the main barrel section is actually the handheld blaster for the robot mode. I think they actually did a pretty good use for that at the very front of the tank with a nice scope and, of course, a barrel. Unfortunately, it is not a blasted piece of metal, but if you want to, you could remove this and just use this as the barrel. With some nice purple, of course, some nice green on the sides, and, of course, the feet are kind of sticking back at the very end of the tank, which is exactly how they were positioned in the Voyager class version of G2 Megatron, which I will bring out in just a second for comparison. This side is the exact same as the other. Of course, there is no G2 Decepticon symbol there, but everything else is the exact same. And of course, you can see the head and the chest, and unfortunately this tank does not have wheels, which I think is kind of a missed opportunity, but that's pretty much it for details. I think it looks very cool. Of course, this is just a straight up redeco of the Kingdom Core Class Megatron. No mold changes at all, just a completely brand new deco. Now, for articulation, of course, the tank can rotate at the turret all the way around, and if you want to, you can actually move this slightly up and down for a different angle for the barrel. And that's pretty much it for that. Let's now get into some comparisons. So here he is with the previous version of this mold, the Kingdom Core Class Megatron. As you can see, they are the exact same sculpt. It's just a completely brand new deco. Two pretty cool looking tanks, kind of small, but actually very fun to mess with, in my opinion. Let me know which one is your favorite in the comment section down below. I think I'm probably leaning more towards the G2 version, in my opinion. I think it's a little bit more creative. There's a lot more colors to it. It makes it a little bit more interesting. But that's just my opinion. As you can see, size-wise, the exact same. Transformation, the exact same. Everything's really positioned in the exact same way. That's pretty much it for that comparison. I will bring out this Core Class Kingdom Megatron later for the robot mode for comparison. Let's get in one more bigger comparison. So I'm going to zoom out the camera just a little bit so we can fit everything in. Here he is with his previous version of G2 Megatron. This is the Selects Earthrise Megatron, which I think they do look very cool next to each other. His barrel is quite a bit longer, and as you can see, very similar in design. Of course, they both have that kind of military camo deco, and I really do like how they kept that symbol in the exact same corner on the tank. That's pretty cool. As you can see, the feet do kind of hang out the back, just like this one, and with this one, actually, they did put them at a slight angle, and I actually kind of would have liked if you could angle these as well, but of course, since this is a repaint, I wasn't expecting them to change that at all for just this version specifically. But as you can see, definitely heavy inspiration from each other, very similar in design, but of course size-wise very different. But overall, two pretty cool looking tanks. So that's pretty much it for comparisons. I think we can now get into transformation. So the transformation, of course, is the exact same thing as the Kingdom Core Class Megatron. So first, what you're going to want to do is remove this pistol here. You can put that right off to the side. Then what you can do is separate these two sections here. And how this works is there is a peg here that just goes right into that port in the barrel section. And we can just leave that right here. Then what we can do is disconnect this section. There is a little hook there that will just go right into a little slot right inside the leg. Then what you can do is unhinge this section, so there is a slot on the inside of the leg and there is a tab right there, so that will just tab right into place. You can do the same thing for the other one. Bring this down, tab it into place. You can then rotate at the waist fully around just like this. And there we go, the legs are fully complete. Then what we can do is go to the arms. You can bring these sections forward, and this whole tank piece will just move back like this. This will just collapse there, just like that. And as you can see, there is a tab and there is a slot in the body that will just tab in. You can rotate the cannon section down, and then hold at the shoulder. This piece will just rotate around to reveal the hand like that. And there we have that arm done. Of course, tab this into place, rotate at the elbow joints, and there we have G2 Megatron fully complete in his robot mode, looking very, very cool. Let's take a look at the details. We have G2 Megatron in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very top with the head sculpt, there's some nice silver for the helmet section. There's like this nice creamy gray for the face, some red for the eyes, and that's pretty much it for the head. Getting to the arms, of course, that nice green, some purple for this huge cannon section here, which to my knowledge, I think you cannot remove it, which is kind of unfortunate, but overall looks pretty cool on his arm. Of course, this arm is the exact same sculpt and detail. Of course, there's just this port here for transformation. Getting to the chest, I do like this nice G1-y design with the orange 2 dots and that little rectangular section there. There's some nice silver and purple for the crotch / waist. Getting to the legs, some nice green, orange, and more purple spread out across the legs. Of course, the treads are still there from earlier, which I think looks pretty cool on the side of the legs. On the inside, some nice purple and green. And that is pretty much it for the front. Of course, unfortunately with the bag, we still do have that really ugly backpack that we saw from the Kingdom version. And unfortunately, you really can't do much about that. But detail-wise, overall, I think it looks very, very cool. Let's now get into articulation. So at the head, it can rotate all the way around. For the arm, there is a ball joint at the shoulder, so it can move forward and back, out and in. There is a ball joint at the shoulder, so it can rotate all the way around. Elbow bend. There is also no hand rotation, unfortunately. Same for this side. You can, if you want to count this as articulation, there is rotation here at the hand, but that's really part of transformation. There is full waist rotation all the way around. For the legs, full splits. Unfortunately, the legs on this figure are actually very, very loose. They can kick that far forward, that far back. There is a knee bend. There is also, of course, rotation at the knee because it is on a ball joint, and that is pretty much it for articulation. Of course, this figure is a little bit loose because every joint is really a ball joint, so usually ball joints tend to be pretty loose after a while, so I probably won't be messing with him too much. As for accessories, he does come with this pistol here, which is pretty cool. I think they tried to create sort of a smaller version of Megatron, like in the G1 show, he would transform into a handheld gun, so I think this is probably what they were trying to go for. There's a scope, an ammo clip, a handle there, of course, and overall the barrel looks pretty cool, and you can have him hold it if you want to, like that. And unfortunately, again, not really Blaster Piece compatible. This barrel is, which is pretty cool, but overall, pretty cool accessory. I tend to not have him hold it in his hand. I actually put it on his back, which really recreates the whole barrel section on his back from the G1 show, which is kind of cool. So what you can do is go back here, and there is 2 ports. I tend to have it on the opposite side as the fusion cannon, just to spread out his accessories, and you can do that, which is pretty cool. Have that big barrel or post back there, which really does recreate the G1 Megatron look, which is pretty cool. And now for some comparisons. Here is G2 Megatron compared with the original version from Kingdom. And as you can see, they are pretty much the exact same figure, just the deco. That's really the only change in the figures. And I'm leaning towards more of the G2 one. I think it really just is a little bit more interesting, of course. Yes, the G1 Megatron is pretty cool, and unfortunately they both do have that ugly backpack, and you really can't do much about it. There might be some upgrade kits to fill in all that empty space. I'm not really sure, but I typically don't really get any upgrade kits for my figures. But 2 pretty cool looking figures. As you can see, the exact same accessories, and I really do store them in the exact same way. And that's pretty much it for this comparison. Let me just zoom out the camera quite a bit, and we can get another comparison with another Megatron. Here he is with the previous version of this character. Here he is with Select's Earthrise Megatron, and as you can see, again, very similar in design with that kind of camo deco. 2 pretty cool looking figures, both that really big, large purple cannon, which looks pretty cool in my opinion. And yeah, 2 pretty cool looking figures. So let's now move on to some more core class comparisons. Now for another set of comparisons, here is G2 core class Megatron compared next to the other 3 legacy core class figures so far revealed in this year, of course. Hot Rod, yes, is officially part of Legacy, but also I did get him in Kingdom, so I'm going to leave him out for this comparison. But here are the 4 legacy core class figures so far, and I do hope, of course, they make many more to come of Legacy and other lines in the future. And I think these are pretty cool figures. Yes, we have gotten 2 repaints. Of course, Skywarp is just a straight up repaint of the Starscream mold, and this is just a straight up repaint of the Kingdom Megatron mold. Honestly, as repaints goes between these two, I think this one is better in my opinion. Unfortunately, Skywarp is missing his null rays, and the accessory comes with really doesn't work very much. And as many people know, I think Iguanus is definitely the best core class figure so far. And I did review Shockwave over on the channel quite recently, and yes, between the two of Wave 2, the core class figures, I have to say Shockwave is more interesting and better, because of course he is a brand new mold, so that is kind of to be expected. But 4 pretty good core class figures, and I do hope in Wave 3 we don't have another repaint, because for the past 2 waves we've had repaints for 1 core class, so I'd like 2 brand new molds. That would be pretty nice. And rumor is we might be getting some Dinobots in the core class size, and maybe of course we might get a Thundercracker soon in the core class size, which would be pretty nice. And hopefully, just hopefully, he'll be coming with his null rays like he should. Let's now move on to the final thoughts. Now for the final thoughts for the Transformers Core Class Legacy G2 Megatron. I think overall this figure is pretty good. Let's start in the robot mode. So overall, pretty good articulation, well detailed. I actually think this figure is probably my favorite of the 2 versions of this mold, and I think it's just more interesting. Of course, there's more color to it. I think the original version is kind of bland, really just black and gray. Yes, I do quite like the original, G1 Megatron design. I think just has a little bit more oomph to it. I actually do quite like the accessory, how they pretty much recreated the typical classic G1 Megatron handgun from the old show and put it into an accessory, so that's kind of cool. I'm wondering if that's what they were going for. That's just a theory of mine. I'm not really sure. Articulation is good, of course, no ankle pivot, which is kind of typical for a core class size figure, and I'm not really that picky for articulation for small figures like these, because they're only like $10, and I'm really not picky at all if they're a repaint or if they have a few problems, because they're like $10. I just like the little minifigures. If you want to mess around with a figure, and you don't want to mess around with a really big one that's a lot of steps, you can just grab a small one off the shelf and just mess with it for a really long time. So it's kind of nice how they have some cheaper versions of figures. But overall, a pretty good robot mode. My only complaint is I kind of wish some of the joints were a little bit tighter. As you saw in the articulation segment, I was kind of messing with the legs a little bit because they're actually very floppy and pretty loose. He does stand up pretty well. It doesn't really, limit anything, but I would just like them to be a little bit tighter. Transformation-wise, of course, both ways, very simple. Of course, the exact same transformation as the Kingdom version, so if you have that version, you know exactly what to do. Don't even need to look at the instructions. Tank mode I actually quite like. I really do like the tread design. I also do like how they put a G2 Decepticon symbol on there in the exact same spot as the Earthrise Selects one. That's kind of cool attention to detail. I also do like how, of course, the feet are positioned the exact same way as the previous Voyager version. So there is several characteristics they have kept between them. I also do kind of wish the turret wasn't kind of hindered or limited by the feet. Unfortunately, they do slightly get in the way if you want to rotate all the way around, but it does have a pretty good range of motion. You can slightly move the turret up and down. That's not really an official part or feature of it, but you can do it. It's a good feature, just kind of a made-up one that I found. But overall, a pretty good tank mode, well detailed. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with wheels, which is exactly like the Kingdom version, so I wasn't expecting to be included, but it would be a nice feature to be included, and these tank Transformers. So overall, pretty good core cost figure. Yeah, it's just a repaint, but honestly, I think it's one that's worth being picked up. Between the two, I think this one is the better version of the mold. I think the deco is just a little bit more interesting in my opinion. So that's pretty much it for this review. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Which deco do you like more, the Kingdom or the Legacy version? And I think that's pretty much it. So I'll see you next time.